Waving.
Hello, everyone. So let's get started, I guess. Hi, Manuel. Hi. Hello, hello.
Hi.
You guys can put where you're from in the bottom. I'm speaking from São Paulo. I'm in Brazil, and Julia is
I
in,
am Italy.
yeah,
It's so
international.
international today.
Very, very. So welcome, everyone. I think we'll, oh, Mexico. Hola, Mexico. Peru.
Peru.
Bienvenidos.
Hola, Carlos.
Argentina, bienvenidos. Welcome, everyone. All right, so let's get started as everybody comes in. I'm just going to do a quick intro of you, Julia, and then we'll dive right into the questions.
That's right.
Oi do Brasil, oi Gustavo. Couldn't help it. All right, so welcome everyone. My name is Paula. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a former Miami Ad School student. I'm a storyteller, and I'm hosting the Nomad Talks. We do talks every 2 weeks. And our guest today is Giulia Magaldi from Italy. The whole idea of Nomad Talks is to kind of shine a light on a lot of issues and things that keep coming up for us as teachers or the directors or former students from the advertising world. And this theme in particular, it was Giulia who brought it to us, which is how being a foreigner in the US actually helps you be a better creative. So Giulia, let's just dive right in. And I'm gonna ask you, like, why did you think it was so important to bring this theme today to us? And just a quick FYI, actually, I forgot to say this to everyone who's participating. You guys can put questions in the chat and we will answer throughout. Like, you don't have to wait until the end of the live. So yeah, put your questions in and we'll answer them throughout. So Giulia, tell me, why was it important for you to bring this theme?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And the reason why I wanted to bring this topic to Nomad Talk is because I am Italian. I was born and raised in Italy. And when I came to the US, I had no idea about culture, about, well, language, yes, but I learned, the British accent. And so everything was new for me. And I assumed that not knowing was a problem. Okay, was a problem, not knowing reference in pop culture, not knowing like some slang, not knowing all these things from the US. And so I hide my ignorance. I basically nod in every meeting when they were bringing up the references, and then I went back and had to work on those things, and I had no idea what to do because I didn't know until I realized that I was leaving that as a weakness instead of a strength. And when I started asking questions and felt comfortable saying, "Hey, by the way, I don't know this," I realized it was much better because it made me, first of all, more curious in general, more comfortable in asking questions, not just in this case, but also in other situations. It made me more curious because after asking for the hint, I went to look digging and looking for what was that topic, and most of all, I was coming with fresh eyes to something that people from the US or people that lived in the US and are not from there saw in front of them forever. And so maybe I had a different twist. It can happen. And that's the moment when I realized, okay, maybe we should talk about it. It's okay not to know. And it's okay to ask. And that is going to make you even better in your work.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. So was there a specific moment, or was it sort of more of a buildup of experience and accumulated internships and things like that?
Yeah, I think it was the internships. First of all, I did 4 internships at Miami Ad School, the 4 of them in New York, JWT, Such and Such, People, Ideas and Culture, and 360i. So all very different, from like big agency, smaller agency, social media, more focused on social media. So I learned a lot there, because I realized that I wasn't the only one, and the other people that were doing the internship with me, and that they were foreigners, they had the same problem. So we started
Yeah, I
talking
think it's
about it.
especially a city like New York, it's just so diverse, and there's so many people from totally different countries in the same agency, all working on the same brief. So yeah, New York's a
Yeah,
really cool
exactly.
city for something like that.
Exactly. So it was a learning curve for sure. First, like talking about with my peers, then realizing that other people were asking the questions that I was having in my head. And then I started relying on my creative partner, like Frank. Frank is my creative partner, and he studied in the US, so he lived a little bit in the US, so he had more knowledge of these things. And then I decided that it was my time to ask questions. It's fine. It's totally fine.
Awesome. So before we dive into your internships, because I think I'm sure there's a lot that you can tell us about your internships and your current job now as well, in terms of what you've learned. If you could tell everyone sort of where you're from. You said you're from Italy already, but go into a little bit more detail about where you're from and what you were doing before you got into advertising. And then kind of, so you already also mentioned that you did think it was a disadvantage. So set up that scene for me in terms of what you were doing before getting into advertising in Italy.
Yeah. So yes, from Italy. Clearly my accent doesn't lie. So I was born in southern Italy, and then I moved to the north for study communication, and I studied communication between Bologna and Spain. University in Italy are very theoretical, and in Spain I had the impact with advertising, because they are very, very technical. And I realized that was the thing that kept me awake at night. And this work, we need to stay up some late night. And so I said, okay, I want to do this my whole life. How do I get there? So I was working a little bit in Bologna as a journalist, then as a community manager, until I met two people that didn't know each other, and they told me, well, if you want to do advertising, just go to Miami Art School. And I said, okay, well, you don't know each other, and this is a sign from destiny. I have to go to Miami Art School. So I prepped my application. I applied to Miami Art School Miami, because for me, if it was called Miami Art School, there must be a reason. So I went to, I know it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I said Miami Art School, Miami, yeah. So I prepped all my papers, and went to Miami in 2013, January 2013. So this January was 8 years that I moved to the US.
Oh, wow. So also we started one quarter apart. I started October of 2012. I didn't realize it was like so close.
Yes,
Yeah.
And so, well, Miami Art School is such a great experience for all the people that you meet, all the possibility that you get, and most of all, the networking. Like, I found out that the US, it's a big country, but the advertising world is so small that you get to work with the people that you met during the internship, or you get to work with the person that you went to school with. So it's such a small world. And yeah, I keep going. I don't know.
No. I think that's perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. So now, kind of, what were your expectations? Because you were really like moving and living in a completely different culture. Just like a few days ago, I was talking to another ad school student who is from Spain, but then she went to Miami Ad School, Mexico. So, there's so much learning right there. So sort of, what was your motive behind wanting the international experience? And if that fear, that insecurity was already there, or by that time you had kind of already, I don't know, How was that situation?
So to be honest, my entire life, it's been based on two things. One, it's being curious. So I was very curious on going in a country that I didn't know anything about it. Or I know, a little bit, but not that much. And the second thing was that I was getting too comfortable in Europe. Not that it's a small territory, like there are a lot of opportunities, but we always looked, when we talked about advertising in Europe, we always looked up at what the US was doing. We're doing. So
a big reference then there as, yeah.
Exactly. Where the rules of the game change completely. There is like, you can mention the competition, you can do this, you can do the other, like completely different from what Europe rules are. So I was like, okay, you know what, let's go in this place that is gonna make me uncomfortable. And I think that insecurity was already inside me, but it was one way to try to fight it back. Okay, I don't know anything, let's go. I don't know about the culture, and I'm gonna get into a business that pop culture is the base. You are crazy, but let's do it. So you know what I mean? Like I was always trying to push it, and I think it's a process to grow as a creative as well.
Definitely. So let's talk now a little bit more about your internships that you had in school, because I remember from my experience as well, that's really when everything you learn just kind of goes like, and you have to put it into practice, like boom, 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 boom. And as a foreigner as well, sometimes, there's a bit of a culture shock there. So can you describe your internships sort of from those two perspectives in terms of what you learned as a creative? Because for those here who don't know you studied art direction at school, even though you also write, which we will talk about later, about you being a creative hybrid, you and Frank, but you did art direction. So sort of creatively, what came up out of those internships, and also from this perspective of being a foreigner, like what situations arose, or even like if there were specific moments that you could say like, wow, being a foreigner really helped me in that situation, because in that job I was able to look at it from a different angle, if there was any situation like that.
Yeah. So just to recap, the 4 internships that I did were JWT, Such and Suchy, People, Ideas and Culture, and 360i, all in New York.
All in New York.
Yeah, correct. And 2 of them I did it with my current creative partner, Frank, JWT and Such and Suchy. So to be honest, they are all different agency, like very different. And from each
one big, one small, clients, everything.
And from each I learned something. So JWT and Sachi, they are similar in the sense that are big agency. They are big network around the world. So I learned to work with your team, but also have to push a bit the barriers when you meet other teams in the hallway, and to start talking with them, start conversations. Like you in a big agency, you don't know everyone, you don't get to work with everyone. So I think it was a challenge for me, having an accent, having like I'm a bit shy, and so have to break that barrier and saying, okay, now you have to talk with these people, because going back to what Miami Art School is networking. So you have to network, because those people are going to be somehow the people that you're going to meet in our show, in other agencies. So you need to establish a connection. And then People, Ideas and Culture, for the people that don't know, it's owned by an Italian person. So I think you interned in People, Ideas and Culture as well, right?
I didn't, but my husband did. Yeah, Luca did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a very startup feeling. very startup. We collaborated with an agency in Italy. I felt like a completely different experience. We were hands-on on everything. Like we were working with each department. I was coming from big agency, and now I was like, hey, you that are doing the strategy, let's work together. Let's do this. Let's like, it was really the feeling that GUT has like when we started, because we were 8 people. And 360i is a bigger agency, not as big as JWT or such and such, but is very focused on digital. It was, at least. Now I know they are opening up and everything, but it really taught me how to think, how to adapt my ideas for the digital world. That seems easy, but it's not. It's very a beast, because there are, especially right now where there are so many social media, so many ways to get the information from, so many input, trying to adapt one idea to the digital world,
I feel like it's a whole other chip. Like you need to remove the analog chip or whatever you want to call it and put in the digital chip. I always say that I think that someone who knows how to write, for example, for Twitter, it's such a specific skill, because you can be a great writer and not know how to connect on Twitter, or you know what I mean? Like it's two different mindsets. Absolutely. I don't know. That's how I feel, but
no. It's absolutely that. Like there are some tweets that go viral. And I ask myself, first of all, would you be able to write it? No, I don't think so. And second of all, sometimes I don't get it because maybe you are not into the word 100%. You need to dig in and look for it. That's why copywriters and directors that work in the digital world, they are amazing, because they know much more than human beings like me.
So it's really interesting for you to sort of walk me through the experience, because 2 things already popped up in my head that I want to ask you about. And one of them, the first one, is a question that we get a lot, and we've gotten it on different talks. So I think it's always nice to kind of ask that again, which is, you know, how important is it to speak English in terms of fluency? Because what we usually found, and you can weigh in, is that it's sort of a misconception that you need to be, you know, super fluent and super, like not necessarily. So how was that for you personally?
I always feel that English, my accent is a barrier, but it's actually not. And I have to
it's more an internal thing than someone else saying it to you.
Exactly. And I have to remind that to me every time. Every person that I worked with, they have an accent, even if they are from the US, because the people from New York have an accent, people from Texas have an accent, people from Miami have an accent. So we all have an accent. The important thing is that we are clear, we can communicate, and if something is not clear, we ask, or we say, oh, I don't know how to say in this. You try to explain it. Sometimes, since I am living outside Italy since many years, sometimes I miss the words in Italian, and I try to go around and explain that same concept until I get to the word. And that's exactly English. Yes, of course, to be a great copywriter, you need to read, you need to listen to songs, to movies. But now, to be the #1 copywriter in the world, you don't need to be American or English fluent. The ideas will always win.
Nice. Yeah. And it's curious as well that since you're working mainly based in Miami, you also have Spanish to kind of navigate with in your job and in your daily lives. It's 3 languages and
yes, in my head. Yes. Yeah. Sometimes I don't know what, like I speak with my mom in Spanish and she's like, you have to switch that language. Okay, cool.
I also want to ask you about pop culture, just because you mentioned it earlier in terms of that was a point of insecurity of like, well, I don't know the pop culture. So what did you do throughout those internships, or maybe what tips did you learn? What's your go-to method in terms of getting to know like a specific part of the population, if you're advertising for them, or if you want to, I know you worked on Popeyes as well, so I don't know if it's a stupid example, I don't know, but like if if you're trying to get into the mindset of people who like that product, what do you do then to get to that point of knowing and understanding the pop culture when you need it for a brief or for your personal life living abroad?
Yeah, it's a super interesting question because I cannot make up for the pop culture that I missed. So if someone is bringing up, in a brief, a strategist or account, a reference, I can look that up. What I can do that is in my power is like since I moved to the US, it's being always on Mashable, on Twitter trend topics, on CNN, on like Apple News. I have something like on my phone. I always check the Apple News on things that like keywords that I look for. I try to read also Fox News, like all the news outlet in the business category, in the also entertainment. I try to look at the Oscars, MTV Awards, like all these things, because pop culture is born from that. And also it's not only on me. Working in an agency that wants idea based on pop culture helps a lot, like Gut, Drogify, where I worked.
Okay, so Gut specifically wants that kind of.
Yeah, right, there are specific brands that really want to be on on top of the pop culture.
Yeah, like very aligned with what's going on, right?
So
nice.
Also the agency is bringing you this input, and well, personally, I'm lucky because I also have my creative partner is obsessed with pop culture. Like he brings me reference. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. J-Lo said, I'm like, okay, all right. I know Frank is here and won't open his mic, but it's true.
Yeah, I feel like it might be a good time. I was going to ask you a bit later on in the conversation, but it's very cool that you brought him up already. So I think I'm going to ask about him already, because it is a very like really cool work relationship that you guys have, and you've done such amazing work together. So, that in itself is a big reference for people. So before I ask you about Frank, I just want to address one thing here in the chat. Someone complimented your glasses, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
And Axel said that language barrier is something that makes him be scared to move abroad. So yeah, I think that's not the case. Yeah.
Don't. And if someone is making you feel less of an art director or a copywriter, then you don't want to work with those people.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. It's like sometimes maybe it's just about finding the right fit for you as well. Being in a place that is open, and if a place is not open, then maybe it's not the place for you, and that's okay. And
and that I know we're gonna get to that later, but I want to say, like, the only way to find the right place is being yourself in interviews and through your book, because only that. We had a piece as students that was in Spanish because we had the idea, and why not? So I think when the book is a representation of who you are, you're gonna find the right fit. Absolutely the right fit. Even though you think that the right fit is another agency, don't aim for the agency, aim for what you want to do, because if not, you're gonna get into your dream agency and you're gonna be unhappy after 1 month, for real.
100%. And I saw that happen I've seen that happen over the years, for sure. That's such a great piece of advice. So let me ask you about Frank then now. Like, tell me how that was, because for those of you who don't know, Frank and Giulia met at Miami Ad School, and then they struck up like a beautiful partnership there. So walk us through that, and then I'll ask you a few more questions about it, but tell everyone about how that's been.
Yeah. So Frank and I met 8 years, maybe 7.5 years ago in Miami Art School. Frank is 2 quarters ahead of me. So you were 1 quarter and Frank was the quarter before. So in Miami Art School, you have your class, but then for awards show, you get to collab with other people from different quarter. And that's how we met. We created, it was for young ones. I don't remember, Frank will know. It was a project for, it was an award show. The project that we came up with was terrible, like terrible, is in one of our folder, in our hard drive. No one will see it because it's terrible. But we always say that we got our partnership, which is the most important thing, because we clicked immediately. I have, as I was saying, a copywriting background. I was a journalist and a social media manager, and I started Miami Art School as an art director. And I was confused. I wanted to write, but I didn't have all the tools to write in English. So I said, well, art direction, also because I felt limited not to put into like the visuals what I was thinking. So I started as an art director, but I wanted to find someone to collaborate in the same way. And I found Frank, that had a past as a writer as well. He graduated as a creative writing in FIU, and he joined as an art director. So my same situation, more or less. And so when we started working, we felt that we were doing both the 2 things for the best. So all the projects were coming out with both point of view. And that's why we said, okay, let's be partners and be creative hybrids, which now things are more fluid. And I think it's, you see a lot of partnership that are like that. But when we started, oh boy, it was a pain. Everybody said, you have to pick who does what, blah, blah. Until we found...
And this was from the agencies or
from the agencies. Yeah.
So how did you guys sort of find that confidence to stick to what you guys thought worked for you? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, well, we said, listen, we have to find a place that accepts us for what we are. And I know, Eric,
the hybrid struggle is real in the comments.
Yes, it's real. Like, people keep asking. And just for the records now, I have my title as a senior art director. Frank has his title as senior copywriter, because title matters for the client. So at Drogify, we were put, when we interviewed there, we were put in front of a decision, like, we have to give you the title for the client. You do what you want, but we need the title. And that's how we operate throughout our entire career. Yes, we have the title. Yes, when things get hectic, Frank focused more on writing and I focus more on art direction. But there is no single piece that gets to our creative director or our ECD that Frank didn't see, or any single script that I didn't see. Because I think fresh eyes on things are so important. And also, this is not my idea, this is our idea. We have to make it better. I know that Frank is going to have a point of view that it can sound harsh, but it's for the good of the campaign. So I think I went to the other side, but all of this to say that you have to stick to
Listen, if you put an Italian and a Brazilian in a conversation, the tangents are going to happen. They're going to occur. Because it's it's part of both of our cultures to like, oh, but let's go. So, okay. So let me go back to my list of questions.
No, but yes.
So actually within that context, my next question was like, from that partnership now, you guys are senior art directors at Gut Miami. And I wanted you to tell us a little bit about that move from Droga in New York to Gut Miami, which also meant that you sort of moved up in terms of the position and the titles, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, tell me about that. And yeah.
Yeah, that was, I won't lie, that was a scary move. We were a drug fire. The independent agency in Cannes for years, ADDY, all the awards possible. And we started at Droga when it was very small, like the creative department probably was 50 people. I introduced myself to David, like when I was next to him. We had like an open door at his office. Like literally we knocked his door and was like, Frank, Giulia, come in. So we were comfortable. And to my point earlier, and like I know I speak for Frank as well, we don't like to be comfortable. So we started realizing that other agencies, we went to actually to the Clios. Candice is here, she's the organizer of the Clios. So we went to the Clios and we started realizing that Drogafy was an amazing place, is an amazing place, but there are other places as well in the market that do great advertising. And there was this place that kept coming up in our conversation with me and Frank. There was the ex-agency of Anselmo Ramos, David. And we said, oh, this project make us uncomfortable because it was like calling out Google. Like Burger King was calling out Google. A big agent, are we crazy? Like this made us very uncomfortable. So we said, when Anselmo left David and started his own agency with 6 people, we said, okay, this is our time. Or we make us very uncomfortable and we jump on this startup agency with 5 people, we're gonna be employee number 7, 8, and really get to build an agency and also brands from scratch. Like, because we got some brands that were nothing and we brought them in a good spot, or we stay here and we're gonna have an awesome career anyway because it's Droga5, but we have to decide. And since we are crazy a little bit, we decided to jump. And I think I would be always grateful for the experience I've done at Droga because it brought me to where I am right now. Mm-hmm. And I don't look back. I think it was a great decision. It was at the right time because we achieved a lot of things at Droga. And it was just time to bet a little bit more on ourselves because Droga became bigger. And so in Gatti was what we made out of it. We were 5 creatives, including Anselmo. So it was just 4 people working on DAX, ideas, DAX presentation. Like it was
like super hands-on.
Super hands-on. And so we were like, this moment to do another experience.
So it really sounds like also in that situation, being a creative hybrid was the best thing you could be, because then you can just sort of be everywhere and not necessarily do everything, but at least think about it and understand all the different perspectives. So tell me a little bit more. You like touched on it a little bit. Tell me more about being a creative hybrid. Like, was that important for you as a person? I guess it was, right? Because you got some pushback from agencies, but tell me a little bit about that, more about that. And also I do have a little theory. I don't know if it's true or not, but I do sometimes feel like foreigners have to do more than one thing in general to make it in the US. That was my impression from when I lived there. So I was shooting, I was doing photographs, but I was also doing other things. So what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think a bit because we feel it inside ourselves, a bit because we are asked to do a little bit more as foreigners. I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves as well. So we try to prove that we can do this and this and this and this and this, but it all ends up to like we end up gaining more experience. That's it. And also being in a smaller agency and being a hybrid team, it really helps because you have to do a lot of things. Sometimes you need to be a creative director. Sometimes you need to be the strategist. Sometimes you
a planner.
A planner. Sometimes I wrote some scripts or some jokes. Sometimes I was on a shoot with the other art director of the agency, and Frank made the entire presentation for the client, and that was actually a real story, true story. He made an entire presentation, presented to the client, and that was the idea. It was sold with a very interesting Photoshop skills. Like I think that it also helps you not taking yourself so seriously. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, thanks God, we are not saving lives. And we are doing this job because it's fun. So also sometimes not taking yourself so seriously helps you to saying, okay, I'll make the entire deck. Okay, I'm writing a script, even if I'm not sure if it jokes make sense. And I don't know, I think probably you experience more in a smaller agency being a hybrid than you do in a bigger agency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's so important to point out to people to have fun with it, because you're so right. Like you can end up feeling so much pressure living abroad and then trying to prove yourself to everyone and to yourself. And then also with the whole immigration process, which I'm going to ask you a little bit about. And of course, you talk about whatever you're comfortable with, and you don't have to go into too much detail necessarily about your immigration process, but just like, if there's anyone here who's listening that's, thinking that language is a barrier and immigration is a barrier. So if you could tell me a little bit about your process, any advice that you might have, any tips other than, already a great first advice is like, have fun in the process, or you can just be the whole time feeling nerve-wracked with everything. So tell me, how was your experience in terms of that?
So one of the greatest advice that I was given is you gonna start to have good project in your book when you start having fun and not giving a fuck about the rest of what people thinks. And that's true. I think we presented very weird ideas and we had fun in the process. And sometimes because we want to see the end goal, we don't enjoy the process. And that's terrible. And don't take my word for it. Like this is something that David Droga said once, like if I regret something in my entire career is not enjoying the process. So he's St. Mark's Lion. So I would take his word for it, not mine. But it really is like everything happens for a reason. It all makes sense. Don't stress yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. You're gonna have feedback. You're gonna have the ADDY comments. They're gonna destroy you. You're gonna have so many bad reviews. Like people have opinions because this is an industry of opinions. So don't add.
Yeah, what was hearing you talk about, it's so much about taste, right? Like for one person, I don't know, the 80s, the 80s can be a reference, and then for the other person, it's like, ooh, that's so tacky. Like taste comes into it also, and then it can be so subjective.
So don't add to this list that can be negative. Also yourself, be kind to yourself. You're doing already a great job. You're living abroad without your family, without speaking your language, without having your culture reference. So you already arrived. You're done. You are 200% creative. So whatever you do on top of that, it's for your growth, but don't judge yourself too hard. And I know it's easy to say. I have to remind myself every time. Sometimes Frank reminds me, sometimes I tell Frank, like, don't be hard to yourself, like, we can make mistakes, it's fine. So don't, really be kind to yourself, because no one else knows how much effort you put on things, and no one else really knows that you are great, no matter what.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now speaking like more specifically about immigration, is there any advice that you can give to people thinking about the immigration process? Like, a lot of people say awards. I don't know, just what sort of worked for you, or what can you advise people if they're thinking about that?
Yeah. So getting a visa is a job, guys. Let's be honest. It takes a long time to build the case, but it's not impossible. Absolutely not impossible. A lot of people got it, and you can as well. So you have to work on your portfolio, getting awards, getting publication, like do public speaking, or like participating to events. These are the pillars of getting the visa. I started working on that, I think early enough, like the second year of Miami Art School, because awards season, they are in specific time. Also, the more you apply to awards, the more you understand what are some techniques. And so you need to work on it to collect all those documents, but it's not impossible. Absolutely not impossible. Also, one more thing, networking in that case is important, because you're gonna need a letter of recommendation.
So many.
So many. So if you got the opportunity to do internships, not just in the US, but also abroad through Miami Art School, those people are going to be your the people that write your letter of recommendation. And so I always think about the visa process, and now we have to renew it. So I am in that mood of renewing visa.
Remember, Giulia, enjoy the process.
Exactly.
Use your own advice. Enjoy the process.
Now it's been used against me. No, but about enjoying the process, now that I have to build the case, I'm like, fork, in these 3 years, I've done so many projects. It's insane. It's a pat in the back. I'm like, oh.
Nice.
So it's not like I really want to say, even though some lawyers say you don't qualify, try to get information. Hatem, for example, in this chat, he just got his visa yesterday. Yoo-hoo, shout out.
Love you, Jules. Thank you.
And so try to get in like the info of the lawyers from the people that just got it, because sometimes the lawyer that work with the Hatam has experience with other Miami Art School people. Yeah. And the O1 visa can be tailored based on the work that you do. Okay, so the people that have done O1 visa for advertising people really know how to do it, and
yeah, 100%. I had a situation once where I asked a lawyer that someone referred to me about the O1 visa, and she got a book out of the shelf and started looking for it in a book, and I was just thinking, like, should I just say, like, listen, I don't think this is gonna work, like, it's okay, you probably specialize in other kinds of visas. So I think that's one of the best pieces of advice, is like, look for someone who has the visa that you're looking for, and then try to find lawyers that really specialize in that.
Absolutely. Because, for example, Frank once went to one lawyer before getting to ours that did O1 visa for famous singers. And of course, when he saw Frank's case, he said, no, you don't qualify. Mm-hmm. But Frank is not a singer, so you need a lawyer that already worked with them. advertising people. And after you get that visa by yourself or through an agent, like it really depends, things have changed. Getting hired, it's much easier because it's like you prove to the agency that you qualify, and then they're gonna have a top lawyers applying for your visa. It's not impossible that it get rejected. It's not impossible, but already the case is strong. The lawyers have more money, and so it's gonna be fine. But you can totally do it.
Yeah, 100%. Great.
Yes, it's true. Frank,
yeah.
it's a singer, but it was not. He has like a fan club in Peru. Very, very well said, Jose. But it was not applying as a singer in that case. That's why.
Maybe in the next one he can try, and as a challenge for himself. So I have two more sort of bigger questions before you go into the final round of quick fire questions, and they kind of came up while we were talking. One of them is the situation of COVID. I mean, not to dwell on the reality too much, but if there's anything that's changed or anything that's specific, like for now, a foreigner, let's say, that wants to go to the US or wants to work in wants to work there, do you think anything has changed other than the whole, let's say, plane situation and vaccination, whatever, more like the relationship with the agencies, the relationship with the lawyers? Do you see any difference or any piece of advice in that area?
So for the lawyers, I cannot speak to that because I'm starting my visa process, renewing the visa process right now. So I don't know if the pandemic changed anything. I can get back to you on that thing, on that one. I know the change of president will change a lot because things were slower, and now everybody hopes that
expecting it to be a bit faster.
Yeah, correct.
Cool.
And as for the agency, I think we all miss the human contact a lot. We had to reinvent a different reality, and it's not easy. But I also think that we are creatives, and we came up with ways to be connected even if we are far apart, which is great. But I feel being close to the people in the agency because they did all the effort in the world to celebrate birthdays, to celebrate 2 years opening of the company. Like we all did efforts. We do happy hours. Like I see the effort, but it's not the same thing of being together. And one of my colleagues told me that I should use this line for something, but so I'll throw it in here. I said once, I miss airdrop. And he said, that's the most important sentence in COVID time, because it means that you miss people. You are not around people.
Now that's a good Twitter line.
Yes, he said to me, like, tweet it.
So actually we have a question here. Someone's asking if you can recommend any lawyers. So I don't know if you and Frank or Hatem can put her in touch.
I think the lawyers that we use right now are lawyers from the agency. So I don't think it's the best use of that, but Hatem has a lot of good references. Hatem, if you can leave your email in that, so maybe Adriana can write to you.
Will do. Thanks, Jules.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
You're welcome. Yeah, and I think if I can just say is like, make sure that you check that the lawyer knows, like really knows his/her stuff about the O1 visa. Like double check on that.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for the question. So actually, we don't have much time left. Oh my God, it always flies. So I do have like a quick fire round of questions now.
Yeah.
And then after that, one last question. All right, so a few like quick things. And guys, if you have any more questions, put it in and I'll ask, but until then I'll keep going. So if you have sort of your number one portfolio advice for people who are looking to work in the US as foreigners, do you have any piece of advice of like what to put in the book, what not to put in the book, or whatever comes up for you?
I think like, as I said before, the book needs to be the representation of who you are. Don't change it based on the agency that you want to get it in because you're gonna be unhappy. I guarantee you, like it's 100% certified. And as a foreigner, just make sure that the blurb that you have in the top and the videos, the blurb has a context for the person that is watching it, like to understand. For example, let's think about the absurdity that you are presenting a case in Cannes. Like every judge in that jury needs to understand the case, even if that brand doesn't exist in all the country. So use your book in that sense. So explain the case for all the people that are not from the US, if the brand is not in the US. And the other thing in the video, put English subtitles because not everyone speaks Spanish, French, or any other language.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So what are you looking for when you're looking for someone to be on your team? What are sort of the qualities or attributes, or even something in the book, whatever comes up for you, that you're looking for when you're looking for someone to work with? So this could be like to partner up with creatively or have someone on your team.
Yeah. So when I look at books, I look at two things. First of all, ideas that make me say, damn, why I didn't think about it, in a good way, you know, like saying the insight was in front of me and I never thought about it. And the other one, I really like meeting the people behind the portfolios and generally like realizing that they are good people. And even if we can be different, like two different words, but being a good person makes you connect in every level, because there is like you are genuine, and that's great.
Mm-hmm. Great. So what are the top 3 skills that you feel a creative needs to learn to work in the US as a foreigner? And do you think this has changed with COVID? So let's start with, what are the 3 top skills you feel a creative needs to learn?
Okay, you need to be, oh, this is tough. I didn't prepare. No, I think...
the good thing is we've covered so many angles from your career, so I'm sure...
Yeah. No, I think you need to be curious, because that will help you to find insight, ideas, never stop growing. You need to be... how do you say, like, humilde?
Humble.
Yes.
Yeah. Like because stay grounded.
Yes, grounded, because every insight, every feedback makes you grow, and it's not personal. And the last one,
is there a specific skill, even like craft wise, you know, or something that you think that really catches the eye of people there? Or is it more like a personal sort of attributes?
Well, skill-wise, it really depends if you are like more leaning towards copywriting or art direction.
Mm-hmm.
I think the being versatile helps a lot in your work and as a person. You adapt, you do things, you change, you take the advice in and make your own. So every time I do portfolio reviews, or Frank does portfolio reviews, we always say, this is our advice, but take it or leave it. This is your book. So I think the versatile skills is very important in this sense.
Mm-hmm. Do you think any of those things that you mentioned, so sort of like being humble and staying curious and the skill that you mentioned, do you think it's changed with COVID at all, or did you already sort of think that before and that's the same?
No, I think the versatile became number one now during COVID. We really have to come up with solution and think about ideas in this new normal that it's not normal.
Cool. Quick few questions now. Oh my God, we're running out of time. Thoughts on personal projects, yes or no? On in the book, do agencies, American agencies like that?
No, I think it's very important. Personal projects, I think they show also things that didn't go through the client or the budget. You really put the heart and your entire self in it because you loved it.
Cool. So now it's a two-parter. So people who are starting now or who are thinking now about sort of starting their process of moving to the US or trying to get a job there, getting hired there, what do you think they should know sort of as a number one piece of advice?
If you're starting so in the US as creatives, that it seems impossible, but you can do it. Yes, you can. Let's use a political reference here. Since, you know, you can absolutely do it. You just need talk to people, ask questions, get the right lawyers, start working on your awards, on your project. Don't give up so easily. It's not easy. I'm not saying that this is easy. It's a tough journey. But if I did it, you can do it.
Yeah, and I was just thinking what you said, with all of these things, it's like, don't lose sight of the passion that you had or that you have.
Yeah.
And the reasons that made you want to go in the first place, because that can get lost sometimes in the process. So remind yourself, like, okay, I really wanted it for these reasons, and don't give up, like you said.
Yeah, and this is something that I remind myself, like, what do I tell I would tell my younger self, and what I tell myself right now: never lose that passion, that illusion that you have when you come up with an idea and you have that excitement of a kid and say, yeah, yes, this is a good idea, let's present it. Never lose that, because that's the goal. That's the reason why you are getting a visa. That's why you are working long hours. That's why you want awards. That's why you are in this career. So never lose that.
Exactly. And I think that's us on time. Oh my God, it was so fast. So Giulia, I want to thank you so much. I want to thank everyone who was here as well, who sent questions and participated. And yeah, we're part of a creative international community, and we really got to help each other in these crazy times. So I really want to thank you for being so sort of inspirational as well, that people can really like go for it and not think that, English is a barrier and the visa is a barrier. There are barriers, but like you said, they're not impossible. They're just things you have to work on with passion and get through it. But if you really want to go, it's like super possible. And I think you really showed us that today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for coming. Look, if you have questions, reach out on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, like whatever you want. I'm always available for a chat. I was in your shoes, trust me. And
100%. 100%. Yeah. Thank you so much, Giulia. And thank you so much, you guys. Good night. And get in touch with Giulia. She's awesome, as you can see. Yo soy muy inspirador.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you for coming. You're welcome. Baci,
Ciao.
baci.
Ciao, everyone.
Bye, Frank.